Dwolla, an online cash transfer company based in Des Moines, is one of the Silicon Prairie's hottest startups. Founder Milne is the newsmaker behind Dwolla, and he sat down with me for an in-depth discussion of the story behind the headlines. Ben, thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
I'm super excited to talk with you a little more. I've been covering Dwolla, I think, for over 2 years now, which when I put that together the other day really surprised me. It's undoubtedly one of the most interesting startups in our region, if not kind of around the country. And as I've been thinking about it, one question I really have for you is, at this point, what does success mean for Dwolla? Like, how will you know when you've got there?
I think just our company culture is we're going to get over our next goal, and we feel like inevitably we're going to get there because that's what we really strive to do. But then we just redefine where we're going next. I think that we kind of have this world vision for what we want to create over, a 10-year period. But as soon as we kind of reach that next goal that we're working through over the next few months, we're just going to start working on the next one.
How do you determine what the next one is? Like, what is that 10-year goal that you're looking towards?
Yeah, I think the 10-year goal is really building a big, ubiquitous, cash-based payment network where anybody in the world can access money instantly and spend it at an exceptionally low cost. So the ability, just as long as you can connect to the internet and get access to money and do it for essentially free. We think that if everyone in the world had access to that platform and that network, that would be very valuable to everybody.
Yeah, I think it would be. And early in the company's history, the comparison was always PayPal. That's what I always heard. You would say kind of the quick elevator pitch was, hey, we're PayPal without the fees. Mm-hmm. The more that I've heard you talk recently, PayPal isn't really somebody you reference anymore. It's more Visa or it's Amex, these larger financial companies. And I've even heard you say things like, if Visa or Amex could start over, blow up their network and do it all over again, don't you think they would? That's kind of the position that Dwolla is in. Why the changing kind of brand positioning with the different folks that you're talking to?
Well, I think you find what resonates with people. And you also, I think that what you're building and how you're building it also shifts a little bit over time. So kind of stage one of the company, the philosophical version one was, how do I get paid through a website without paying interchange fees? And that was really all there was to it. And over time, what it's become is, well, what if everybody had access to that really low cost exchange? What if there's more to it than just tying into websites or P2P transactions? And then as kind of the company's grown up a little bit and we don't have 50 people using it, we have tens of thousands of people using it, and hopefully inevitably hundreds of thousands or millions. The way they utilize it is kind of in ways that maybe we didn't originally anticipate. So right now, web merchants is not what's driving our company forward. A lot of it's mobile, retailers. A lot of it is consultants getting paid for work online, things like that. And they've really helped, I think, shape the vision for the company a lot more than just being a gateway to get paid through websites.
I think that makes sense. When you talk to, and I know that you know these people, right, because you see them at Finovate financial conferences, like, what do the people working on ideas at PayPal and Amex and places like that now think about what you're doing with Dwolla?
Generically, I'm not really sure. So, we've had people from PayPal, pitch us on, well, how do we get PayPal into your model? And we're kind of saying, dude, that's not going to work, because as soon as we did that, we have to bring in 3%. Then we have to take the cut out, and that doesn't jive. It's not going to work. And by and large, my feeling is that, ACH, which is essentially how you move money from a bank, is something that at a fundamental level everybody has to deal with, including other credit card companies and banks. And building that kind of middle ground between the credit card companies and ACH and building that new kind of layer that hopefully can become ubiquitous solves a lot of problems, even for PayPal, for any mobile wallet like a Google Wallet, or like you were just talking about Level Up. These guys are putting payment forms inside of their wallet, kind of where there's kind of the interaction is why you would use that instead of another wallet. We become another network in the wallet.
Would you say they support what you're working on? Are they excited to see you guys change the way ACH works because they can use that to their advantage too?
Yeah, at least to my face.
Yeah.
Everybody's really supportive. We've had a lot of support from, everybody from small banks to big banks, from small companies to really big companies. And a lot of the conversations we've had thus far, and I was on the phone yesterday with a really big bank, and their feeling was, okay, well, we get how we can make money on this, but how could we really leverage it to do something different and solve some of our issues? And they got it. And now for them, it's just a conversation of, okay, well, how do we test it?
we're sitting here in Des Moines, Iowa today. This is the Kirkwood Lounge. It's a fun bar, kind of in the downtown business district, not far from your office, not far from my office. You guys are based here. All your employees are here except for a couple, but they're within driving distance. Like, you're very much a Midwestern company. You're certainly not a coastal startup like a lot of the other ones that we read about in national publications. 2 years ago, I went back and looked at that very first interview, and you told me that Des Moines has all the resources you need, and if you decide at some point that it doesn't, you'll just branch out. It's 2 years later, you're still here. Should we apply from that Des Moines has what it takes to build startup companies?
That's a really good question. I think that in our case, we were very fortunate because of our geographic advantages. I mean, the knowledge base that we have here with banking, financial institutions, payments in Omaha, we have this kind of close-knit community and knowledge base that we could build from, and that was really helpful for our type of company. If you're building a different type of company, I don't necessarily know, but I can say that a lot of people have thought that being here was a disadvantage, and there are ways how it is, but by and large, we've gotten to build something I feel like that's really special, relatively under the radar, and the community support of that has helped us make the product better in every way, shape, and form. I mean, we've had a lot of time doing this over the last 2 years we have a lot to learn, but we've learned a lot from the community. I do think that being here is an excuse for someone who hasn't succeeded or didn't. We're not successful yet, but I don't see any reason why you can't build a company here.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean it's an excuse being in Des Moines?
Well, I think if you're thinking, well, my company isn't growing fast enough, it's because I'm in Des Moines. I don't have access to this, or I don't have access. Well, shut up and get on a plane. There are specific advantages to being here. And the fact that it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know about you, but, if you're making a six-figure salary here, you can live pretty high on your horse for that here. I mean, you can live very well. I don't know how well you can live in San Francisco on that, or in New York for that matter. But I do know here you can be in a 3 or 4 bedroom house, have a backyard, have a dog, have what I consider to be kind of like a real good life, where you're not just like in a building with a ton of different people where you don't really have any personal space. And I think that those types of things are really good about Des Moines. The community is really supportive, and I just think that, I mean, if you need to be somewhere else to market your product or find users, get on a plane and go, but operationally, there's no reason Des Moines doesn't work.
Are there things that we're missing? Are there things that you wish we had to make Dwolla more successful?
I mean, we're missing money. The angel money in town is not, there's no one like shedding a light on that. So even the guys who we could use their name to say maybe they're an angel or maybe they're not, but would they publicly state that they are and what their last 5 investments were and how much they put in? Probably not.
And in other cities you'd find that.
Oh, yeah, you can find it on the web. I mean, hop on Angel List. Sure. You know what I mean? They're creating social proof that anybody can access. And here it's like we're still hiding all of it because we're still figuring it out, which is okay. And I think maybe there's almost some embarrassment that maybe, well, this guy didn't do a big enough number, or this guy's going to be judged because he didn't give them a valuation, or it was really unfair, or he got this kind of weird deal. But kind of like taking that out from under the rug so everybody can see it is how we all start getting better deals and deal flow increases, and people externally can look in and say, wow, there's a lot of really good companies and a lot of really good deals here that are really high value for us. Maybe we should get on a plane and fly to Des Moines and check it out. Because quite frankly, even at our craziest expectations, the numbers that we expect here are relatively low in terms of value.
And I would assume in operational costs too. You don't need the high number because you can hire cheaper, you can have the offices cheaper, you can live cheaper here and still be successful.
Right. I mean, like everybody in the building is probably paying like $1 a square foot, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
on the coast.
Yeah, I don't know what it costs on the coast, but I'm pretty happy with what we pay at the Midland building.
Yeah, I would agree. Talking about money, and you guys did raise your first round here. It was released that it was over $1 million. I think it's very, by definition, it's smart money, right? It's from investors that can really help you with the product. It wasn't just a cash inflow, but a large credit union, the banking kind of support payments group that helped with it. Now I see, we know you're raising another capital round. You're often checking in at venture capital firms kind of all around the country. Do you think, is that where your next round is going to come from? Or does Des Moines not have the money to take Dwolla to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no question that the financing for us is here right now. I mean, it also took me a year to raise that $1 million, and I'm not the type of guy where like I put 5 minutes into it here and there. I mean, I was all in 16, 20 hours a day trying to figure the damn thing out. This one is coming a lot faster, you know, just in terms of more people know who we are, so we can get to the bottom of it a little bit quicker. And there's been a lot of validation that what we do already works. So the money is available here. The question is the right strategic money here at this point? And what's the right choice for the company? And if there's outside money that can help accelerate distribution the same way the first kind of round did, into either other financial institutions or consumer markets or really heavy on developer emphasis, those are things that have tons of value to us. So, you know, it's as much as an interview process for us as it is for them. Sure. To figure out, well, how do we not just take money? Because the one thing I did not understand a couple years ago is the money really is everywhere. It's really hard to access here, but there's a ton of money in the market right now. And for us, it's really how do we make sure that we pick the right partners to accelerate the company and really make sure that it has access to more cash, in the sense that if it starts really taking off in a way we didn't predict, we want to make sure that we have people kind of on board for one hell of a ride.
Do you think that means it'll likely come from outside the area, the investors that you're looking at? I mean, you don't have to commit to anything, but do you think that's where it will come from?
I think you're going to see a mix.
Okay.
You know, I think you'll see a mix. I think that we will take some capital from outside the area, without a doubt. But I would be surprised if I know it's not just going to happen where we're just going to take one big chunk of cash from one person and that's it. That's not really the way we think.
Sure. And I would agree, for what I, you know, from having gotten to know you and things like that, that fits your culture well. Thinking of that cultural piece and what Dwolla is, when you're talking to some of these external, some of the biggest names of venture capital I know that you had contacts with, what do those people think about Iowa? Like, what is their impression of our state? Are they hesitant based on location? Do they require you to say, like, if you're gonna take our money, you're coming to San Francisco? Like, what sort of conversations have you had with them about your company?
Well, you definitely have people that say, given the geographic location of the company, where you're at in the company's life cycle, we're still relatively early stage. Our numbers are pretty decent, but we're still really, really, really early stage. And, in our own style, we just pick up the phone and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Sure. You guys want to talk? And if they say, it's tough for us because of the geographic location, for us it's kind of, okay, well, that's probably not going to work then, is it? And obviously it doesn't have that tone, but that's, we know right there, like, we probably shouldn't start dating. But at the end of the day, the thing we would say to any investor or any partner is that engineering and customer service and operations should stay in Iowa. Business development probably won't necessarily happen here, and those people are on the road all the time. So we're not going to be able to kind of keep control, or keeping control is even the wrong way to say it. We're not going to be able to keep conversations going with larger firms in New York and San Francisco and Texas and Florida just through Skype. It's just not possible. So our plan right now is absolutely to continue to grow in Des Moines. That's the plan.
And the investors you're talking to understand that, or that you wouldn't still be talking to them?
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, it's kind of, I don't think we're gonna take money from anybody who says you have to move everybody's life over here, because who we are and where we are is a big part of our culture. It's a big part of the way we take care of customers. It's a big part of the way and the way we are about taking care of bugs when they come in, about even when you get a call on the weekend that something's just broke. I just think there's something inherently built in about where the company is and the people who are inside of it, about how it's working. And if we move all that just seems like a really big crapshoot and a really big risk at this point to take. And what's the opportunity cost? And it's too high, in my opinion, to move the company.
Thinking back 2 years ago to some of those first conversations, at that time it was you kind of working out of a not yet finished co-working facility. I think the first time that I interviewed you, there was like construction equipment or lumber all around us when we did that first interview.
That sucked.
I think working with you was Shane, your co-founder, who is remote. He's the lead developer on the project. But really not, I mean, one or two other people that were kind of involved in the project, but not a lot. Now, Dwolla today is much bigger, much broader than that. When you think back on that time, there were other people in a similar stage in this town with their ideas. You have ideas that I was working on that were a similar stage that never took off. You said you're not successful yet, but you're certainly on a trajectory towards success that maybe not others in Des Moines are yet. What do you think it was that made it so Dwolla could get on that trajectory?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely some luck to it. I do think that sticking to just the concept of ask for what you need and you'll be surprised by what you'll get. A lot of people in Des Moines, for me, when I just let my guard down and kind of said, dude, I don't know what to do. This is what I got. Everyone's telling me no, or even worse, no one's telling me no, but everyone's saying, we'll come back in a week. So running me through this fucking hamster wheel that never ends. And the second I finally realized that if you didn't give me a yes, I just took it at a no. And then I started talking to, people like Mike and Christian and just being totally honest about what I was doing that didn't work. And then doing the same thing with, Suku and, Mark, who was one of our first investors, who's an attorney and was a former banker, and just kind of just putting myself out there to just get ripped down actually ended up helping me a lot. I just would encourage people to do that. And otherwise, I don't know. When I go into a project, I go all in. If I had to, I'd liquidate all my personal assets to keep the company going. I don't think it's going to come to that, but you just got to go all in if you want it to work.
Do you think that's maybe others haven't gone all in and that's why they haven't seen the same early stages of success that you guys have?
Well, I know a few other guys building companies and, they do it a little differently than I do. And maybe it's just my personality and I become a little bit obsessive about what we're trying to build. And then as the idea evolves, I really buy into it. And I think it's real and possible. And I don't really have a lot of self-doubt about whether or not we can. I think that things could pop up that might make it really difficult, or we could screw it up, or there are a lot of things we don't know that maybe could come into play that would stop us from being, successful in building the company further. But I think you just have to be just egotistical enough to think you can actually do it and not let self-doubt kind of sink in. And if you've got that, and if you can tell the truth, show up to meetings on time, and just stick at it, especially when it's not working, and no one cares, and everybody tells you the product sucks, and no one else is ever going to use it, and they just don't get why it's different than PayPal, and people start, coming up to you and saying, this is never going to work, or people start writing blogs about why it's not going to work, you just have to realize that none of that shit matters, because when it works, who's the wiser, right? And I just, people just got to keep their head down and keep going.
When you have an interesting balance too, because that being egotistical enough to assume that it's going to work and that you can actually do it, while at the same time allowing yourself to be torn down by some of these ideas and kind of respond to that and make it better because of the cases you've seen. This probably isn't characteristic of everyone, so that might be piece. Personally, I see you guys did something with PR that I don't see other startups doing here. You got funding earlier. Now you worked really hard at that, obviously, but you got funding earlier than some of the others projects that were at the same time. So I think there are lots of differentiation points for what Dwolla's been able to do that others haven't, and I'm excited to see other people kind of look at what you guys have done so far and build from that for their own companies. What would you advise other entrepreneurs who are at a similar stage as you were 2 years ago? What did you do that you wouldn't do going forward? How would you advise other people? We tried this and that just sucks. Don't do that.
Wow, that's a really good question. We made some really interesting decisions about, we used user IDs instead of utilizing handles. That was just stupid. People couldn't.
User ID was a number.
Yeah, mine's 812-546-3855. And the only reason I know that is because for a year and a half, that was the only way to send money, and I had to be able to repeat it everywhere. And no one used them, and it was a huge pain in the ass. And you even had to log in that way. So, I would get text messages from people that say, okay, well, I want to use it, but I can't remember my ID number. And that was a pretty common occurrence. That was just stupid. We should have stuck to what was normal and just said, well, we'll just let you define a handle. That's what we should have started with, without a doubt. I will say that, I think that's just one really big thing we did that was dumb. and I never should have. Initially, there was a period of time where I was really hell-bent on doing it here, just for the philosophical sake of doing it here. And, I think some of my, I think Shane can attest to this, Shane Reeser. A lot of guys who connected me with folks in New York originally and in San Francisco, I almost didn't want to talk to them because they were outside of town. And I had this idea that, well, there's got to be something different about you. And I had some bad experiences in my early 20s with my old company with some guys in California and some guys in Nevada. And so I had this preconceived notion about the way the deal could go. And it was all bullshit. And if I was redoing it today, I'd be leveraging those relationships everywhere instead of just here.
So to summarize a little bit, kind of stick with what works. You don't always have to reinvent everything.
I would agree with that.
With the user handle. And then just because you're building it here doesn't mean you can't leverage outside relationships. That's kind of the two pieces.
Yeah, and I think that one thing I would advise anybody to do as well is to get outside of the area and go to, Disrupt. Disrupt is really expensive to go to, but if you go and you check it out and you see kind of what you're up against, just in terms of, the culture and access, that's something that we just don't have access to here, and we're doing really good things to move the community forward. But I think that getting access and just going out and seeing it and knowing that it's there and seeing how all of it works and seeing how polished the products are when they get out is going to be really helpful for everybody kind of building better products here.
Dwolla has a community here. You touched on it before, the community bought into you. I've heard people describe it as the Dwolla tribe. I think at Think Iowa, people said, well, this is the Church of Ben, things like that. How did you develop that community? The first visible thing I saw was handing out T-shirts to people, but it's more than that. How did you get people that seemingly didn't know you, a couple months before that, to be that invested in wanting to see your company succeed?
I honestly wish I knew. I think we did stuff we took a different approach early on to trying building relationships, and it wasn't about commercial relationships. It was just about, if we're going to handle your money, we should have a good relationship, right? And Dwolla's not a bank, and technically we're not, handling the money, but we're a part of that exchange. And we felt like getting out and people being able to see our faces and interact with us and know we're real people was better than being a faceless corporation that had no feelings, had no family, had nothing but a desire for cash. Those are the things that we did not want to embody. And it's amazing over time how humanizing we've realized that just having the balls to go talk to people, apologize when you're wrong, put up in the blog, the server's down. We're really sorry, we're working really hard on it, but at the same time, there's no reason we should be lying about it. And just sticking to the T-shirts over beer thing, everyone buys beer, so let's just do something different and just get you T-shirts. It's the same price. So, I think that's worked pretty well, and thankfully, working with 8-7 and Van, they've come up with really cool designs that, I think that our core demographic also really digs their work, and we want to keep supporting them too. So, hopefully, we can kind of keep doing that.
Has it been easy to translate that community you have in your hometown of Des Moines to other markets where you've entered?
We haven't really successfully done it yet. We kind of planned on doing it in Omaha, and then we got really busy. And then, right now we're kind of working through some plans to kind of try it in Brooklyn. And we've got some folks that have just reached out to us and kind of said, hey, we want to try and do this with you guys. Caitlin, who's really great now at Dwolla with social media stuff, has been kind of doing a lot of those discussions and kind of getting the plans ready to try it there. But every time we've kind of got ready to go pounce on another kind of community in the sense of let's get our faces out there, let's really go engage in the community, let's support it, let's find startup events, let's be a functional member of that community. We get really busy, and then somebody ends up on a plane, and we just don't have the resources to just go do that. And that's kind of what we've been working on for the last couple months is what do those resources look like to go be effective in those communities. And it's not just about sales, it's just about being a functional member of the community and showing the value in the product that we have, which I think there's a lot of value to it. People just don't understand it.
And building that relationship, wherever you are, kind of where you started to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very good. Ben, thanks for your time today. This has been great information. Good to catch up on what Dwolla's doing. And we'll talk to you again soon.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.